Marcus Limited Edition Fighter, $11 million. Steampunk triumphs with the Neiman Marcus Limited Edition Fighter. There, that's out first thing. Now to the details. Whoever saw it coming that Neiman Marcus Limited Edition Fighter would later claim pole position at any top of the list of most bikes is probably a seer of the highest order. Especially when one considers how the market at a humble is $110,000. And mind you, Neiman Marcus is a name you want to connect with the department store rather than a superbike. 1949 E90 AJS Porcupine, $7 million, a bike manufacturer with a rich history and winning racetrack heritage marred by several financial turbulence early on. AJS could only manage to produce 4 Porcupine units in 1949. As it turned out, one of these under the very able hands of Les Graham won the 1949 World Championship. An open-frame, aluminium alloy, 500cc, DOHC twin engine with horizontal cylinders and heads give the Porcupine a low center of gravity. It uses what's called jam pot shocks and telehydraulic race forks. The design and manufacturing decisions made by AJS first through the original owners and then through the succeeding ones read like a virtual and veritable source of what-to-do ideas for any aspiring bike professional. Akasi ES1 Spirit, $3.6 million. When a bike manufacturer requires even a professional driver to first take a 2-week training before trying to ride one of its models, you just know something is up with this bike. And why not, indeed. This is not two-wheel machine as traditionally defined. First, there is no chassis framework to speak of. Swing arm and rear suspension attached to the gearbox, and front suspension to the engine. The much-touted 265-pound speck of a weight comes from eliminating the extra pounds associated with transmitting front-wheel forces up a slender fork through a steering head then back down to the rest of the machine. The front suspension consists of twin A-arms, projecting forward, their apices defining a steer axis and carrying an upright from which projects the front wheel spindle. The lower A-arm is, in effect, a single-sided swing arm. To avoid the muddy steering feel of earlier articulated front ends, the handlebars are on the upward projected steer axis. Their motion so defined that resulting feel will be like that of the familiar direct steering telescopic fork. Hildebrand and Wolfmuller, $3.5 million. History is expensive, and at $3.5 million your purchase would send you back 124 years ago to 1894 when this first production motorcycle appeared on the scene. Heinrich and Wilhelm Heidebrand were steam engine engineers before they teamed up with Alois Wolfmuller to produce their internal combustion Motorrad in Munich in 1894. This momentous event started sending the flesh and blood steeds out of fashion, reinventing themselves as emblem of the refined gentry, while the special breed of men simply moved on and transferred their affections to the two-wheeled metallic petrol-guzzling steeds that took over the roads. Bms Nemesis, $3 million. The first thing you would notice about the Bms Nemesis is the yellow glitter and absence of side stand, making it look like it's lying flat on its underbelly like a marooned whale. Would it even run, you ask yourself? In fact, it would. Fully functional, it incorporates an air ride system that, along with the single-sided swing-arm rear suspension, can lift the motorcycle 10 inches or lower it right onto the ground. This renders a side stand unnecessary, as Nemesis softly lands on its frame rails when it's time to park. Harley-Davidson Cosmic Starship, $1.5 million. What used to occupy first place in many top 10 lists of most expensive big bikes is now only good for a 6th position. However, It claims to have been sold at $3.5 million and is now up for sale at $12 million. If that happens, it should recapture the crown it once had or not. Since we don't imagine the rest of the entries here would remain with static prices days ahead too. Dodge Tomahawk V10 Superbike, $550,000. If you think the Dodge Tomahawk V10 Superbike suspiciously looks like a four-wheel Dodge squeezed on both sides, you won't be alone. This Tomahawk V10 Superbike is a strange beast indeed. And not just because it uses a V10 4-stroke Dodge Viper engine that could easily power up any chassis with more than two wheels attached to it to give you the feeling of being dragged by a fleet of 500 supercharged ponies looking forward to storm the Bastille. Now talk about the soul of two-wheel steeds.